Hello, everybody. This is Anita, and welcome to the Finding Your Financial Voice podcast. And I am your host, of course, Anita R Johnson. And the mission of this podcast is to always give you sound financial tips that you can implement immediately, allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Pam Sams, and she'll make sure that I say it properly. And she is the owner of Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies. She is also a contributor for Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women, our magazine, our quarterly magazine that goes out. And one of the contributors, she's a very new contributor to us, and we're happy to have her. And I met Pam when I did another workshop with her and another woman. And so we met that way. And so we've been trying to get in touch with one another. Sometimes we miss each other, sometimes we do. But here we are, and it's her time, and we're going to talk about it. So Pam, hello, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for having me, Anita. I love that you had said, we've tried to make this work a couple of different times, and this was the opportunity of a lifetime that came when you asked me to join Affluence. So I am very honored that we kept in touch and we were able to make this happen.
Yes, I am too. I'm excited about you coming in and speaking with us and writing. Of course, if you give me 15 minutes of the time, I'll tell you all the themes, and you'd be like, how can I write to that theme? But I'm excited that you are here. And let me just tell you a little bit about Pam. For 19 years, she's been helping women improve their personal and financial wealth through solid financial life planning. Believes that it's important to align your money decisions, what is important to your life. She listens, she engages in meaningful conversation. She tries to gain understanding with her clients, their goals and values. And she is about their helping women with their money. And Pam, I want to thank you for that because, as you know, I do a lot of things with women myself on the emotional side of the finance, and then trying to help them reach their goals, their financial goals. And when there's something a little bit more that I don't provide, then I'm going to be, of course, we're going to be sending them over you if that is what that's what you're doing for them, helping them. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So tell me a little bit about your business. Let's talk about your business and what happens if a client comes in. Is there a particular client besides a woman? Is there something that, and all the things that you're doing in the community? So let's just start with your business per se.
Exactly. Just like you explained on my bio, I've been doing this for the last 19 years. And actually the way that I came to financial services was after my father had passed away and my mother had a hard time figuring out the finances on her own. She came from a generation where men took care of the household finances. I always say my mother was she is a back of the envelope person. She just kind of put everything down, all of the bills, what needed to be paid. But then my daddy would go ahead and write out the checks and then the bills would go out. So I remember as a small child really seeing that around the kitchen table. So in his absence, after he had passed away, I knew, she would probably be struggling for a little bit to try to figure out her finances on her own. I had just completed an MBA in financial management, thinking I was going to go the big bucks and do investment banking. But then Anita had 2 kids back to back in graduate school, believe it or not, and knew that probably was not going to be my path. So I took a sabbatical for a while and really was at home figuring out what my next best step would be. And then my dad got sick and eventually passed away. And I figured at this point, I stepped up to help my mom with her finances. And I knew other women were probably in a similar situation that my mom was in as a widow, trying to figure out money on her own. So I hung out my shingle in 2002, really with the mission to help women in transition. So most of my clients are women single by choice, divorced and or widowed, really looking for that trusted advisor to help them walk that journey to financial independence, because that's all about having somebody that you know and you trust with your money. So most of the women that come to me are in a, similar to what you had said, in kind of a vulnerable state. What do I do emotionally?
Uh,
with money. How do I figure it out? All of those things. So people that come to me really trust that I am going to provide the level of advice they need, but also, take into consideration what they're like as a person. Because I always start with a values-based exercise with them. What is important to them? What makes them tick? And then ultimately crafting an effective financial plan for them around that. So a lot of my clients would come to me, originally, or just people who come in, and then eventually, most of my clients become friends. We hang out together, go to wine events, and all of those things. So I like the what I call the family component of my practice, is because this is family for me, and I've been invited to so many different events, school graduations for their kids, or retirement parties for them, and really just becoming that source for them. So that's what my practice is all about, and that's what has always been my mission ever since I hung my shingle out in 2002.
I love it. And if you guys want more information about Pam, she was featured in Women in Wealth section of Fortune magazine, November 2020. Oh gosh, look at you. I'm excited for you. Wow. So
Yeah,
we
that
can
was
go, so we'll see your beautiful face in the Fortune magazine.
yep. It's a special
Oh
section
my
that,
gosh. Now
yeah,
that's a
it's
tidbit I
actually,
didn't know.
yeah, that's a special section that they featured women wealth advisors, and I was one of the ones that was chosen for the DC area, the DC metro area. So it's a special section in Fortune, the November issue of Fortune. So yes, you can look all about my bio and my face in there. That was one of the pinnacles of my career, is really to be recognized as one of the top wealth
I
advisors.
love it. I love it. We have us a great one here in our midst, a great one in our midst. Thank you, Pam, for allowing me to be in your orbit. I love it. I love it. You decided, we talked about you writing for Affluence, and you decided, yes. What drew you to wanting to write, be a contributor for Affluence?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. My passion, as I explained before, is really about educating women in this space. In a previous life, I actually do have a journalism degree from the University of Missouri in Columbia, and it comes in handy when I need to do things like this, write articles or write blogs and be a contributor to a variety of different publications. But what drew me to this is that, number one, being educating women with financial fitness, but also, women of color. That's what has been one of my initiatives as well, is really to educate my own community around money. So that's what really drew me to Affluence and the team, to allow me to use my resources and my knowledge base to really educate women in this space.
I love it. Women are important to you. What kind of information can you give them, like right off the cuff? Nothing, of course, everybody has to come to you and you have to lay out a plan, but what are some like the basic things that you tell all women when it comes to their finances?
Straight out the gate, I always tell people that they need to know kind of the ins and outs, household operates. What's coming in, how much money are you bringing in, how much money are you making, and then of course, ultimately, how much are you spending? So I use that dreaded B word, Anita, with people, which is budget. They don't want to hear it sometimes. So I'm gonna use that bad word, not that B word, but the other one. And so it probably has the same shock value that other ones.
Yeah, I know when I say that, people be like looking at me like,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, no, not that one.
Yeah. So I've kind of crafted it a little bit, and I call it what I call a financial roadmap, because it's the same thing. We need to know what you're bringing in and what's going out, because ultimately you want to make sure that you're bringing in more than's going out. You don't want to break even, and you don't want to be falling behind. So getting a clear understanding of where money is going and how it runs in your household. And, believe it or not, that's one of those difficult questions that most people can't answer. And that's basic on, what are you bringing in and what's going out? And everything else follows after that. How do you put your proper plan in place? How do you start saving for retirement or any other financial goals you may have? you need to know the basics first. So that's where I always start. And that's the number one tip I always tell people is really to set aside what your financial roadmap looks like in the beginning. And maybe you don't go strictly to, the budget piece of it, because budget sometimes means for people is that I'm going to be deprived of something. It's nothing like that. It's really how much are you spending on X item? Can I do better? Do I need this particular resource? So I always go through the needs and wants exercise with clients as well. It's like stuff that you need. Of course, you're going to need, housing, transportation, food, the basic survival, and then everything else, you put on the wants columns, all of the, I go to the salon twice a week, or all of those things, and you can see, okay, what do I have in my household that I can eliminate or reduce in order to, put yourself in a proper financial standing. And that's what it's all about, is really just kind of knowing where things are, where things are going. Can I curb a little bit? The one I see a lot of times, where people are dining out, eating out, because it's easy, it's convenient. But sometimes, that can, you can end up overspending in certain categories. But if you know where those categories are that you're overspending, at least you have some control over it, or they're, like I said, eliminate or reduce, or, find another way to do a replacement, something maybe a little bit more affordable for you.
Great. I mean, it's wonderful that that you are doing this for women, because we do have, sometimes we're just afraid, or we're fearful, or we just sometimes just don't know. And I believe that is what you do is important, and that you have that empathy or sympathy, or I don't know if those are the correct words for it, but you can see what has happened to you in the past, or happened to your mother in the past. And then when women come to you, I know sometimes when people come to me like, oh, my stuff is a mess. You've never seen this before. And I'd be like, yeah, probably if I didn't do it. If I hadn't had money rolling through my hands and out of my hands quickly, okay, right, just like everybody else,
Yeah.
then I probably this may be the worst thing that I've ever seen, but no.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's the thing as well, that keeps women, especially women, from seeking help originally, is really the shame factor, that I am ashamed that I'm not further along than I should be, or, this person's going to judge me. I always tell people straight when they come to me, whatever happened in the past happened. That was a life lesson for you, but I can only take you where you are now and move you forward. Let's not dwell on the poor money choices or things that happened in the past, because that's not going to get you anywhere in that instance. So we really need to do that. And, for example, I did have, when you mentioned that, it brought to mind a couple of weeks ago, when one of my new clients that I just brought on, she was honest. She's like, hey, I know that you've probably seen everything, but, my situation is a hot mess, and she used the term, it's a hot mess. And like I've seen, over the past 19 years, I've seen thousands of, different situations, and, hers was no different than any others. She went through a nasty divorce, custody battle, all of those things that put her behind the curve, really stopped her financial trajectory, making really good income, but we're having some situations where it, eliminated a lot of her resources in the beginning. So she's starting from scratch, but, that's what stops people from seeking help, is that, I don't know if I can be helped. And I know you probably see that as well, Anita, in your situation, is that, it's a fear of, I don't even know if you can help me, but, I'm a hot mess, or any of those. And just come get the help and seek the help. And then really determine what level of resources that you do need, and move you forward from there.
Correct. So Pam, tell us what you got going on. Give us your information so people can, if anybody listening out in podcast land to get in touch with you, what is your information for them? Give that to us.
So, of course, my website is, www.jacksonsams.com. That is jacksonsams.com, JACKSONSAMS.com. the story behind that. I did tell about how I got into this. So Jackson is my maiden name, and I decided to keep the Jackson to honor my dad because that's how I got here. So that's where the Jackson Sams comes from. So that's where you can reach me on my website. Tons of resources and information that people can use there. And of course, they can request any complimentary consultations from that website as well. They can also follow me on social media. So on Facebook and Instagram, I'm at Jackson Sams Wealth. That's at Jackson Sams Wealth. They can find me there. And then on Twitter, don't use it a whole lot, but if people like to tweet, that's great. At Jackson Sams WS, because Twitter only allows you to use a certain amount of characters. So I did have to abbreviate that. But on my social media, I put out a lot of content, really good articles. At the first of each month, I also put out a post on the different speaking engagements or different things that I have going on that particular month. So you generally look out for that towards the beginning of the month, so you can kind of see what activities I have going on that month.
Well, thank you, Pam, for being with us. And remember, Pam is one of the contributors for the Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women magazine. It's a digital magazine. If you want more information about the magazine, go ahead and email me at info@moneywisdomforwomen.com, and we'll make sure that you can get that magazine in your inbox. Pam's first article will probably be coming in the September issue. So look for her article, look for her coming up as one of the featured contributors, all of those things, okay? Because she is rocking. I'm happy to be in the same orbit space with her. Thank you, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, and I am very honored and humbled on the kind words you just said.
Thank you. Well, we'll go to our next contributor next. And so, Pam, thank you for being with us. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Well, hello, everyone. This is Anita again, and welcome back from the commercial. And this is Finding Your Financial Voice podcast with Anita, your host, and we are continuing to interview all of the contributors that make Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women. And if you have not picked up your copy or if you've not gotten it in your email, I suggest you go ahead and email me at anitafinancialbehaviorist@gmail.com. That is anitafinancialbehaviorist@gmail.com, all one word, so that you can get the most current Affluence magazine and also pass it on to others like you pass this podcast on. Well, today we are going to interview Dre Walker Williamson. How are you today?
I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, we're excited about having you here at the podcast and, of course, being a contributing writer to the Affluence Financial Fitness magazine. So anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then she will be able to tell you the rest because she's got real good stuff going on. And so she is a storyteller, author, producer, all right, filmmaker, and speaker. Whoa, and an award-winning author. And so one of her recent books is Moment in Time, Poetry of Grief and Healing. Oh, and it's a tribute to her deceased husband. So, wow, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So, Andrea, tell us a little bit. I mean, I have it in front of me, but you can do your thing better than I can do your thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I guess, you know how they say that something that happens in your life has attributed and you come full circle. I am definitely a product of everything happening, coming full circle because of all the things that have happened in my life collectively. I am able to put those things in a box and say that this is a full package. I started Create Noise, and it was exactly 6 years ago in 2015. And Create Noise originally was an arts and entertainment company where we wanted to publish books, and I wanted to go more into children's entertainment and more into production for just different characters for children of color so that they could see themselves, within our products and on the book covers, and they see that young Black boys and girls read and identify with those things. And Create Noise became a sounding board for not only my grief speaking opportunities, but also I was able to collaborate with a lot of entertainment and arts companies. We created murals and did a lot of live shows and everything. And now I've infused arts and entertainment with also education to create edutainment. And I've been able to go inside of the school with that same motive and that same motto. And now we are building a school and a headquarters in South Carolina. We will be breaking ground by the end of 2021. We will actually be opening our first theater arts school on that site. And we'll have an opportunity to offer entrepreneurship opportunities for the students who attend that school. And the whole idea is for us to open up these schools all over the country in affluent areas that are considered to be underrepresented communities where a lot of children kind of get lost in the sauce. And originally that started from me speaking at some of the schools and realizing that they removed a lot of art programs from the schools. And that was how I learned to use my voice. And, that was my first public speaking arena, was to read my poetry and to have opportunities like the PEP program and a lot of other like peer counseling groups and just different opportunities where I was a young person still learning how to use my voice and learning what the sound of my voice really, could bring out. And that's why I say that everything kind of comes full circle. I started what you call tragedy to triumph workshops at some of the schools. Audubon Middle School in Los Angeles was one of those schools where I was able to continuously do that for 2 years. And we have a book that's due to be released called Through Our Eyes. And it's basically an anthology book that was written by the students that I created. And it's a product of those workshops. So we have a workshop series that will be kind of going around the nation using that same formula to show people how to journal through your trauma and how to find your voice and use social issues in your environment to speak up and speak out, and learning that everything that you do does make a difference. And when a tree falls in the forest, that it does make a sound, So I think that's the best way for me to kind of describe what I've been doing and who I am at this point.
Wow. You have a lot going on.
Thank you.
Got a lot going on. Where you get the energy to do all this? Sometimes do you sleep? Do you have any sleep thing going on? Do you do that?
I do.
And probably sleep well too. Yeah. Well, you have been a contributing writer for Affluence for quite a while now. So what made you get into writing for Affluence? And tell us a little bit about your recent article in Affluence that's coming up.
Well, the fact that we are presented with something as mental health and finance, something that is offered to us for us. Mm-hmm. I think it was definitely a representation for women, not only for women, but just for everyone. But I felt like it's an area that goes untapped, especially when we talk about financial awareness, when we talking about, using that muscle and continuously addressing what our issues are. I felt like we needed to take ownership of those things.
Right.
And so I wanted to be a part of something like that. I felt like it was something that was groundbreaking that we don't usually hear or see. We see a lot of the naked ladies on the covers and stuff like that. We don't really see women embodying, we're going to deal with these things, mental health. We're going to deal with finances. We're going to deal with ownership. Mm-hmm. And we're going to deal with building. So that is one of the reasons why I continuously push Affluence, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm definitely going to be here for the long haul. I wanted to see us grow. And I feel like that's what we're doing. And so I appreciate you allowing me to continuously be a contributor of the magazine. My particular articles, I have 2. So Investing as a Woman, that was one of the articles. And then the other one was the carbon footprints. Mm-hmm. So the carbon footprints was me giving some steps to someone who wanted to purchase some raw developed land. And I basically take you on a journey of how my process worked for me, even though, everyone's journey is not going to be the same. If you have a couple of steps and stages in your process, then you'll be able to skip some of the mistakes that I was able to make. So that's why I wrote that particular one. And then you don't see a lot of people on the ground as they're clawing to climb up, really telling how that happened. So I wanted to do that early on. And, sometimes when we're doing things, we are compared to men. And I felt like, if you throw in and it's a weak throw, they say, oh, you throwing like a girl. Well, I wanted to say, the first article that investing as a woman and investing like a woman, I felt like we can do things and be great at it. So, I wanted to make sure that I kind of touched on that. So it was basically in regards to us being in certain spaces and allowing ourselves to continuously grow within that space, to kind of live in that particular space. So as a woman, you don't lose the gumdrops and butterflies in that thing, but you embody all of it and you just kind of dig in the same way that anybody else would.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I have enjoyed, we all enjoyed, I think, of course, the carbon footprint one, both of them, but you just really have to really get down in the weeds to understand, open yourself up for that. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm glad that you're with us. What would you, what would be your advice to some young woman just basically getting started in, I don't want to just say finance because that's more than what you do, but we're talking about finance. What are some of the things that you think that's a young woman should be thinking about in her 20s when it comes to her finances that maybe you didn't think about in your 20s?
Okay, so if my current self was speaking to a younger woman who was open to, just the challenge of it, I would say live below your means as much as possible so that you could save your dollar for tomorrow. Wow. And put up as much money as you can, put up as much money as you can because it's so easy to spend and so hard to make that we don't really respect the dollar. We kind of run through it and then we don't think about it until we need it. So I would say make a plan for your money as well. I think I was in my mid-20s when I started to really make plans with my money for later on. Like, okay, when I get this amount, I'm going to do this, this, and this. But you know what? I'm going to do my first big vacation. I'm going to take my mom and my sister, and we're going to kind of go as a family because we've never really did anything big. We've always did small vacations growing up. I said, I just want to do something big where it's on me. I'm hosting it, and that was one of my goals. And now I do a couple of trips a year. And if they're not on, if they're not ready to go, I still go, and
I know that's right.
Yes. And then, so people will look back and say, well, I can't believe you still win, or I can, well, that's the whole thing, that life is going to continuously continue to move. And if you're not jumping on the train, then you won't be a passenger. You just sitting on the sidelines. So I would definitely say live below your means. That's the first thing. I would definitely say respect the dollar, because you're definitely gonna need it for something.
Right.
And I would say open multiple accounts for multiple different purposes. One for saving, one for bills, one for leisure. So, you don't even need a card for everything. Like I might have 3 checking accounts, but I only have 1 card for 1 account. The other 2 accounts do not have cards attached to them. And if I need to transfer them or move them around, that's cool. But I know that these other 2 accounts, those are the accounts for something that's important, way more than just me swiping on a regular basis. So as a young person, when you start thinking about your money in that way, that it could work for you, then you definitely will respect it and you'll save more.
Well, you have had your moments.
Definitely.
I guess there's a story behind everybody. There's a story behind everybody. And
Yes,
sometimes we tend to forget that there is a story. Everybody has a story, and we always want to feel sorry for ourselves. But what we can do is look at other people, have a person that you maybe can be an inspiration to you that keeps you going. And so you are one of those people that some of these young women, even guys, can try to understand their finances and say, hey, she did it, I can do it. Let's see what she did to make it better for herself and her family. And so let's try to follow some of those steps.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you for being here. This is Anita Finding Your Financial Voice podcast, your host, Anita Johnson, and we are with one of the contributors. We actually call her Dre. And so that's how I have it in my phone, Drea.
Right.
We don't have the whole thing here. We just have that name. But she is one of the contributors for the magazine Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women. And if you have not received yours, because it has a lot of upcoming events, it has a lot of articles in there, and it's very informative. I think we'll be adding a resource page to the next issue, which comes out in September. And we just got our new issue, and it's talking about investing like a woman. And so most of the articles are geared towards that. And we're happy to have that. So, Dre, thank you for coming on and being one of our guests. And also thank you for being a writer for Affluence.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Finding Your Financial Voice podcast with me, your host, Anita R Johnson. The mission of this podcast is always to give you sound financial tips that you can implement immediately, allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Oh, today we have a special guest. As you guys know, we have been really pushing our Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women magazine, the digital magazine, and we are doing interviews with all the contributors, letting you meet the contributors. So when you get the magazine, you've seen, you've talked, you've done everything, you've heard from the contributors. But today we have a special guest. We're going to be talking with our editor-in-chief of the magazine, Candace Smith. Hello, Candace. How are you today?
Hey, Anita, I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you on the Finding Your Financial Voice podcast.
It's always a pleasure every time.
Thank you. Oh my God. This is an honor because we know that you are busy making things happen. You are busy making things happen. So, Candace, the first thing I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about your experience because I know you absolutely, and people know that you are experienced in being an editor-in-chief of several magazines in your lifetime, right? And you contribute a lot to every one of those. I want to talk about your personal experience with coming to Affluence as the editor-in-chief. What is it that made you want to come over? Next, what do you see now for the magazine? And then thirdly, what's the future look like for the magazine?
Well, we've had a great relationship together, me and you, with writing a few books. We came together to write about Black women and money with part two books. And that was a great experience because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the women that you were connected to. And, I also contributed to the magazine first.
Right,
so
I
was writing for it and I had that experience. And while I was having that experience, I did want to contribute more, but I was hesitant. I was unsure just because the way I have contributed in the past, it's been me leading just all the way, my vision and everything like that. So connecting in that way was new, but I did see areas where I was like, oh, I would love to do that, or wow, I feel like, if this happens, that would be great. So I think one day we kind of were both thinking the same things or whatever, because I'm just going to mention it. I'm just going to say something. So, one of our meetings, I think I just brought it up and you was like, or maybe you brought it up. Either way, it was on both of our minds.
Right. That's great. I mean, it was, because I had been thinking about it for a minute and I was like, does she really want to? Does she really want? Okay, you just have to ask. Because the answer is always going to be
Right.
no if you don't ask.
You know what? You're right. That's a good point. I never thought of it like that. Right.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good way to think of it. That's the glass half full way of thinking about that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. The answer is always going to be no if you don't ask. So, all that thing about closed mouth don't get fed. Okay. Yeah. We got that. But yeah, now you got some things going on with the magazine. Tell me about those things, and then tell me the future of Affluence.
Well, right now, we have some amazing men and women that contribute to the magazine in their fields of finance. They're gurus, they're experts, they're people that are trailblazers in that field, in that area, as far as investigating us as Black men and women, and when men and women of color, looking at us solely. I think that's very innovative. I think that's very new because, a lot of times we just look in general at things, but we have unique experiences, and it's worth looking at those experiences, and it's worth it to hear those experiences. And that's what the magazine brings. It brings a lot of men and women from all over different backgrounds and what they've learned, especially by being in the community. I think that brings a lot of value to the magazine, so we are highlighting the contributors as the first issue has been released, or the latest issue has been released. We are now in the middle of having a week where we spotlight the contributors of the magazine and sharing their personal articles. You get an opportunity to see them on a live under the Affluence magazine's page, and just get to hear from the person behind the article. So also there are some new writers that you have not met, but you will get to meet. Those are two very impactful voices in finance. So I'm excited to bring those voices along for the next issue. And for the future, I definitely see a lot of in-depth conversations regarding finance and the way we tackle finance. You get something on all levels. You don't have to just be at a certain level. I think one thing that's great is that everybody kind of puts in some information of how you can get from where you're at to, investing, which was what we were talking about in this latest issue. And I really love that because it made it where everybody can kind of relate and nothing's over someone's head.
Yeah. I love the articles. Everybody has done a great piece on it. And what issue? The June issue. Oh gosh, this is the June issue, and it's out. Yeah, it's out. And we do have a Facebook page, Affluence-Financial Fitness for women page. So you can actually go there, and if I'm not mistaken, there's a link to the magazine, and the magazine is now free. at no cost. You can get it straight to your email. But we know as we grow, so does the magazine grow, and so does the readership grow. And so, we know that in January, we will be taking subscriptions. So, Candace and I are working on that. We'll have that ready for those folks who actually really want to have that magazine. We also are thinking about a hard copy. So, those things are really important to the growth of the magazine. I love it. You have anything that you want to add to that, Candace?
I just want to encourage everyone to definitely go check it out. There are a lot of valuable resources that come along with the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Like Anita just mentioned, the Facebook page, because we have the lives coming out every week, as well as different tidbits and tips from the contributors. They're being posted throughout the week. And not to mention just following the contributors themselves, like they're doing some amazing things in their communities, so just following them as well, following the magazine page and making sure that, hey, you're locked in to know when the next issue drops. And like Anita said, by the beginning of the year, we will be in a different place to where it will be a small fee to obtain it. And so you want to take advantage of the knowledge that's being put in there right now, because there's information in there, especially with dealing with past things that will help you to navigate through to get to another level. So you can take advantage of that information now and be in an entirely different place by the beginning of next year. And that can be a goal. We literally have 6 months left in this year, and there's so much that can be accomplished in that time to be able to be a blessing to this publication. So.
Yes, definitely. Great. I'm excited about it. We people that want it, they need to just go ahead and email us and let us know, or on our Facebook page, just say, hey, send me a copy. Put me on the list to get it, for next year or for the next one, and it'll come to you first before we post it on the page. Posted on the Affluence page. We also posted in the Money Wisdom for Women group too. So that's another place where there's another resource and stuff. And I'm excited about the contributors, interviewing the contributors. I get to play a small part in this. Candace allows me to maybe say 5 words. But on the podcast I could talk because it's all me. But it's all good though. But I think it's just a great way to give out information and stuff. Candace, is there anything else? I'm enjoying what you're doing with the magazine. Tell us, I know you have other adventures that you are doing. And so we're privileged to have you as the editor-in-chief. And so I'm excited about that. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about with the magazine, or just your general direction of your own life?
I mean, I think it's flowing together. It has from the very beginning, just connecting and going through the different phases of writing the books and just the other projects that we've been involved in together, because, my life is not financially centered. That's one thing that I feel like was making me a little hesitant too with joining the magazine, because I learn a lot. I don't necessarily know a lot to give instructions to people, but, growing with the magazine, having the opportunity to interact with the contributors and connect with them is beneficial to me too, because it's all of this knowledge being poured right into me, and I'm definitely applying it to my life and seeing exponential growth, and just not just with money, but in the ways of handling money and the way I teach my children about money. all of those things. So it's just kind of coming together,
Right.
all
right.
together at the same time. Yep.
Yeah,
So it's
I
been
love it.
a real good journey. Yep.
Definitely. Well,
Yep.
thank you, Candace, for your time. This is Anita, and this is your Finding Your Financial Voice podcast. And we've been talking to the editor-in-chief of the Affluence-Financial Fitness for Women magazine. She has given us a few tidbits on the magazine, what the future is for the magazine. And we're excited to have her here on the podcast. Thank you, Candace. We will be talking to other contributors. We'll just continue this conversation. And so we're just getting all our contributors out, all our contributors in here, getting them on this podcast, letting you know about it, letting you know about the magazine. So thank you, Candace, for being with us. And we love you, and we will talk to you soon. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to the Finding Your Financial Voice podcast with me, your host, Anita R Johnson, where our mission is always to give sound financial tips that you can immediately implement into your everyday life so that you can leave a legacy for your family. I want to thank all my special guests today. We had a host of contributors for the Affluence magazine. And if you have not received the Affluence Financial Fitness for Women magazine, please email me at Anita Financial Behaviorist. Email me at Anita Financial Behavior so that you can get your copy, or follow us on Facebook under Affluence Financial Fitness for Women. And so let me thank my guest, Drea Walker, now known as Dre. We call her Dre. And then let's talk about Pam Sims. Thank you also. And then, of course, our chief editor-in-chief, Candace Smith. And so all these ladies, their information is on Facebook, or you can Google them, or inside the interview was that information that you can contact them. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next month.